Over to you, Abhishek.
Great, thank you so much, Raj. So I'll start. So I'll introduce myself. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft 365 Bootcamp. I'm Abhishek Kumar, and I work at CloudFront Technologies as a Microsoft 365 consultant. And CloudFront Technologies is based out in Mumbai, India. You can visit us at cloudfronts.com, which is based out in Mumbai, India. And my area of expertise is migrations, modern workplace, Microsoft Teams, security and compliance, and I have been with CloudFront since last 5 years. And you can read my blogs here. This is my LinkedIn profile and my Twitter handle and my email address as well if you wanted to connect with me. So I'll proceed. So in this session, we are going to cover the topic which is best practices for D365 customer engagement document management in SharePoint Online. We will see how to integrate Dynamics 365 customer engagement with SharePoint Online and what are the security practices we can follow or implement to keep the documents secure. This is the agenda for today. Uh, We will cover the session in three parts. Number one, which is Dynamics 365 customer engagement and SharePoint Online integration for document management. And then number two will be securing the documents. And number three will be questions if you have any. So you can ask your questions, queries or doubts. I will try to answer all of that. And if the time is over, you can connect with me and I can answer you all of that. Um, Please reach out to me and send me your questions as well, and I will reach out to you with your answers if we are out of time. Of course, we will not be. So we will proceed now. So first part which we will be covering is enabling server-based SharePoint integration. Now, as you see my screen, so to enable the server-based SharePoint integration, basically to enable the document management with SharePoint Online, you will have to enable the server-based SharePoint integration first. For that, you can just log into your Dynamics 365 CRM, go to settings, and then you can go to document management, and then you need to click on enable server-based SharePoint integration. Here we are enabling the integration in the production environment. If you have any other environment like sandbox environment, you need to, if you want to enable those that integration as well, you need to follow the same process. You need to do it separately for each environment of your CRM. So to enable the server-based SharePoint integration, once you click on the enable server-based SharePoint integration, you will be getting this window where you wanted to choose whether you are having SharePoint online or on premises. So of course, if you have online, you can choose online. If you have on premises, so if you wanted to integrate it with SharePoint online, it's a very simple steps which I'm going to show you. And if you're having on premises, there are some list components and some kind of manual steps you need to do. So we will be proceeding with the SharePoint Online over here. So once you click on next, in to enable the integration, it will ask you for the URL. Here you can provide your SharePoint site URL, which is a primary site collection, you can say, and it's just to validate if this site is, site exists or not. And once you enter the URL over here, you can just click on next. And then it will validate your SharePoint site. And once the validation succeed, you can proceed with the document management enablement. So now, once you enable the SharePoint integration with Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, you will have to create SharePoint sites basically. Um, and for that, you need to go to SharePoint Online Admin Center. I would suggest, so here, if you can see see the presentation, there are three options given to create a site, right? One is team site, the one is communication site, and the third option is other options. So basically, these two sites, when you create these two sites, team site or communication site, it also creates a Microsoft 365 group for you. Here, I would suggest selecting the other option instead of team site or communication science site, since later on you will be managing the permissions from SharePoint and not from Microsoft 365 groups. Creating team site will create a Microsoft 365 group, as I said, and any members added to the group will have same permissions. But since we are also seeing some best practices for securing the documents, we would suggest to go with the other options. Now, since the integration was done earlier, as I've shown you guys, um, before moving further to enable the document management for entities, we have to make sure where we are enabling it and where are all the documents will get stored. So it is recommended to have different SharePoint site for D365 customer engagement, and not just integrating the default site. Additionally, we should have two different sites for production, as you can see, and UAT if you wanted to integrate your document management for UAT environment as well. So you can have two different site for both the environments. And this is basically because if we integrate the same site to both production and UAT environment, it would be difficult to differentiate. So it would be better to create two different sites for that. Moving further, so once the site is created, we will go ahead with the enablement of the document management. So same navigation. You need to go to CR Dynamics 365 Custom Engagement settings, and then document management. And then the next step is to enable the document management with the site you created. So once you click on document management settings, you will see something like this. So currently we are enabling document management for production environment. So we will enter the site which we created for production environment. The URL is editable. So in case if in future if you want to change the URL or maybe change the site, you can do that by going to the same option. And over here, you can see the list of entities which you want enable the document management for. So whatever entities your organizations is using, for example, accounts or projects or invoices, you can enable all those entities and enter the site and then just click on next. Uh, in this slide, you can see here you will need to choose basically which option will be suitable for you. I mean, if you wanted to create the folder structure based on the entity, and there are two entity over here on which you can select your folder structure. One is account entity and the other one is contact entity. So I would recommend over here to just keep it as it is, and then click on next, because you want all your document libraries to be created in such a way that it's easy to navigate and easy to find the entity documents or record documents. So once you click on next, documents libraries will get created on the path you provided, on the site you provided, and it might take a few minutes or so, and then once it gets created, you will be notified over here, and the status will be succeeded, and then you can click on finish. Once the document libraries are created for each entities, and if you come to the SharePoint site, you will be able to see something like this. You need to go to site contents and you will be able to find all the document libraries. So document libraries will be created for each entity which we have selected in last slide. All the entities will be created over here, and same procedure you will need to follow for your other environment as well, like if you wanted to enable for sandbox for document management. So once the document is uploaded on the record, it will show up on the SharePoint Online in the respective entity document library. As for example, right over here, we have selected one of the account, and we have uploaded the sample the document over here. So once this is uploaded over here, you will be able to find under site contents under the account document library, you will be able to find that account, and then whatever the related documents are, you will be able to find it under here. So now that was integrating the Dynamics 365 customer engagement for SharePoint Online. Now, uh, last year itself, Microsoft has released this as well, where you can integrate your customer engagement integration. I mean, you can integrate that with your OneDrive for Business account as well. So this feature came up last year, as I said, and if you want, you can integrate Dynamics 365 with OneDrive for Business in case you want to store some personal files related to that record. So users will be able to, uh, store the file on their OneDrive for Business account, and this will be private until it is shared. So as you see it see from here, once you click on Enable OneDrive for Business, you will be getting a pop-up to enable it. Once you check it and click on OK, the integration will be enabled. So once the integration is done, you will find this option available as well to configure your OneDrive. So once you get these options, you click on it, and here you will need to specify the folder name which will be created on your OneDrive for Business. And once the record is added, once this is enabled and once this folder is created, it doesn't mean that it will create a folder immediately. It's just you need to have to add some document or files to that particular record, and then the folder will appear in your OneDrive Business account. So how to upload the document. Similarly, I'm going to the same account, and when I click on the document location, once the OneDrive for Business integration is enabled, you will be able to see these two locations as well, which is OneDrive and Shared with Me. So OneDrive is basically it's your OneDrive where you're if you're if you wanted to upload the document which will be a personal, you can just select OneDrive and then you can upload the document. And Shared with Me is something when you share that particular document with someone else, that user will be able to go see the documents related to that record under Shared with Me location. Now, as you see, once I have added uploaded the file over there on that particular record, we see that under on your My OneDrive for Business account under My Files, folder got created, which we named it at Dynamics 365 CE. And under that, we have account, and then we have the record available and the files available. And how to differentiate, once you go to that particular record, if you are the owner of that OneDrive file which you have uploaded on a OneDrive Business account, once you click on document location, you will be able to select all the locations, and once you select all location, all the files related to that record will be shown, and you can differentiate, like the location is OneDrive for this one, and the other file is SharePoint location. So all the other users will not be able to see your this data. However, they can see this one, and in order to if you wanted to share it with someone, they will be then they will be able to see this particular document in that Shared with Me location. So this was about integrating enabling the document management and integrating it with SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business. Now we will move ahead with with our agenda point number 2, which is securing the documents. So first part will be access and permission levels in SharePoint Online. So let me just so if you want to have restrictions on who should have access to which entity documents in SharePoint Online, for each document library, we can have separate set of permissions for users depending upon the requirement. So to have separate set of permissions, we will need to stop the inheriting permissions, and then which is from the stop inheriting permissions means that we are stopping the permissions to be inherited from the parent side basically, and or the document library will have a separate set of permissions. We can also make changes to the permission levels. For example, if you want to give full access to a user, but you do not want that to be able to delete the document, in that case, you can create your own permissions level, which you can see it over here. So right now there are three groups. One is edit, full control, and read. Similarly, you can create more permission levels. You know, so let me just quickly show that to you. Just a second. So to have a different set of permission level for document libraries, I'll just so this is the site which I have integrated for my UAT environment. Now, if I go to site settings on that particular site, you will be able to see this option called site permissions. And in site permissions, you can find these three groups created automatically. These are the default group which gets created. Now, over here, you can see, I mean, you can go ahead and add the members, owners, or visitors, and accordingly, as per the permissions they have, they will be able to access the files. For example, if you add someone to the visitor group, they will only be able to read the document and not edit that. And as I said, you can have your own permission level as well. And for that, you need to just click on permission levels over here, and you can create permission level as per your requirement. So you have different set of permissions available over here. As per your requirements, you can have those permissions added, and then that will be your new set of permission level basically. Now, this particular permissions which we are seeing over here, this is for the entire site. And as I said, if you wanted to have different set of permissions for each document libraries, you can have that as well. So let me just quickly show it to you. I'll go back. So, for example, let's take an example of this account entity. You don't want to have all the users who has access to this particular site to be able to access all your records in in the account entity. So for that, what you can do is just go to that particular document library and then click on the settings over here, and then click on library settings. Under library settings, click on permissions for this document library. And here you see all these three groups is appearing because this library inherited permissions from its parent site. So anyone added to this particular group will have access to all the document library. However, if you wanted to have a different set of permissions, you just need to stop inheriting the permissions from the parent site. Now we are not having, so once this is done, if you want, you can just, remove these three groups. This is not required because you are having a different set of permissions for this particular library. From here onwards, what you can do is you can just grant permissions from here, and maybe you can include the users to whom you want to give access to the accounts records. Or else if you wanted to have if you have a lot of users to whom you wanted to give the permissions, you can just simply uh, create a group and provide the group name and just add it, and then after that you can have a permission level. So once that permission level is created, you will be able to see that permission level under here, and you can choose that particular permission level, and then you can just share it. Okay, let me just select, and you can just share it. So this is how we are going to give a different set of permissions to different users or different groups, and accordingly they will be able to access the file on the Dynamics 365 custom engagement. Now let me go ahead and quickly share the PPT again. Yeah. So once that's done, someone who is having the read-only permissions, or those kind of separate permissions which you have created on your own. So for example, in this case, I've given the users a read-only permission, so users will be able to access the file from CRM. However, they will not be able to edit the file. The next is retention policy. Okay, so here you can see I've created the retention policy for both my environment, which is CR production and UAT. What retention policy basically helps you to manage the data for your organization. Like you can decide whether to delete the content or retain the content, or maybe uh, sometimes you wanted to retain the content for some time and then delete the content. So since these are the CRM documents which are important to the organization, and we might consider retaining it forever. I have created this retention policy in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center to retain the document forever. So I don't want to delete any of the documents which is important. I mean that's which is important for me. So I'm retaining it for forever, and it benefits. Like at the beginning, you saw that I created a site which was connected to, which was not connected to M365 group. It benefits here as well because when you create a team site. Which is connected to a group, Microsoft 365 group, retention policies basically doesn't support such type of group. So with this option, instead, uh, I mean, using Microsoft 365 group, they already applies to the content in the group's mailbox, site and file. So here, basically, that was this was also one of the reason why we selected the site which is not related to, which is not connected to the Microsoft 365 group. So once the retention policy is applied, any files deleted by the users in CRM, will be automatically moved to the preservation hold library, and preservation hold library will only administrator has the access to that library, and administrator can go ahead and can recover those documents if it is deleted. However, we can use the permission levels which I've just shown to you earlier. We can use those permission levels to avoid the deletion of any content in the first place. um, yeah, so that's how retention policy will be able to manage to retain the content. Now the next is alerts in SharePoint Online and Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Center. So you can set alerts on SharePoint Online document libraries. For example, here I'm setting an alert on the account document library. So if you're having entities which are critical to you and you don't want any modification, deletion, etc., so you can in that case you can set alerts, and you can specify email address or your contact number where you will be getting the alert if something like that happens. These are some of the, here you can see the for what changes the alerts can be sent. You can see the change type, uh, which is any changes, alerts, new items are added, existing items are modified, items are deleted. You will be getting the alerts for those kind of changes. And here you can see send alerts for these changes as well. Anything changes, someone else changed the document, someone else changes the document created by me, someone else changed the document which was last modified with me. So you can accordingly, as per your requirements, you can select the type of changes, and for those changes you will be getting the alerts on your by SMS or by email notifications. Now, alerts can also be set in the Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Center. Here we can set alerts whenever there is an activity in SharePoint Online defined by you. So basically, there are two type of alerts. I mean, which the first one we set it up on the document library. The other one we are setting it up in the M365 Security and Compliance Center. So here you can just create a alert policy and say that, yeah, that any if there's any file modification, just send me the alert. The only difference, in this alert and the alert which we saw in the SharePoint Online document library, the only difference is that here you won't be getting the SMS alerts, unlike the SharePoint alert. So in SharePoint we get the SMS alerts as well as the email alerts. Next, auditing in Microsoft 365. So you should turn on the auditing from Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Center. I've seen a lot that organizations are using M365, but the auditing is turned off. And whenever something like this happens, then there is this this auditing comes into place, that why this is not on. But once you have your tenant setup, I would recommend to just turn on the auditing in the first place, so that you can know about the activities on the documents, or or there are a lot of things, a lot of activities for which you can get the audit log search, and you can uh, you know for example, when the file was modified, who modified it, you can get all the details basically on those particular activities. So this is a very important thing to, it's a very basic thing, but a very important thing to understand, that you should turn on the auditing. The next is access control from SharePoint Online Admin Center. Uh, in SharePoint Admin Center, you will be once you navigate to policies and then access controls, you will be having these four options. With the help of access control, basically you can restrict or allow all the users to access SharePoint Online contents on basis of the network location, or idle session, unmanaged devices, etc. So you can have this access control um, set up as per your requirement. So if you, for example, if you want that any user whose device is not managed by Azure AD with Intune, they should not be able to access it, or they should not be able to view the documents on desktop app. So you can basically turn this setting on, and then if the session is idle from a long time, it should be signed out. And depending, for example, so if you want that the users should only be, these network locations, then only they will be able to access. You can just go ahead and provide the IP addresses, and then the users will only be able to access the documents from this particular these particular IP addresses or network location. um, so this is few points which we might consider as per your requirements on how we can control the access. Uh, Coming to conditional access, you can either restrict the access, or you can enforce the multi-factor authentication for specific users or group of user whenever SharePoint Online is accessed, accessed from the untrusted locations. Conditional access requires, so all the settings we are going through over here are the basic settings, which doesn't require any licenses, additional licenses. But this one, the conditional access, do require an Azure AD Premium license for users. And if you want to simply restrict all the users from accessing SharePoint Online on the basis of a network location, you can just simply create the access control, which we have already seen in the previous slide. You can go ahead and use the access control in the SharePoint Online Admin Center. However, we do have some added functionalities when we use conditional access. So, for example, this is somewhat like as we see, this is somewhat like access control. However, there are few additional conditions if you see over here, provided like based on device platform, based on locations. Locations we already have it in access control, but based on device platform, based on client apps, we can also have this access control. Uh, Additionally, we have options on how we can grant access to users. So with the help of conditional access, we get these kind of grant access, like whether we require MFA or whether the device should be compliant in Intune to grant the access to the users. So this we can apply it on all the Office apps. However, if we just only wanted to restrict it to the CRM documents, we can just select the SharePoint Online client app as an application over there. Lastly, we also have this options to manage the sharing from the SharePoint Online Admin Center. So here basically when you go to SharePoint Online Admin Center, this is policies where you can select sharing, and then you can just define your sharing settings for your organization as per your requirements. External sharing is one of the key features to collaborate. However, this increases the possibility of data loss, you can say. So according to the requirements, you can select from the given options. For example, you may choose that only authenticators users can sign into Office 365 and access the content which is shared with them. So all those type of settings you can just manage it in the sharing settings of SharePoint Online Admin Center. Now, yeah, not lastly, these are all the basic settings which we are going through since this is a beginner course. And however, we do have additional, advanced level of security. For example, we can use Azure Information Protection to, label the documents. We can use Enterprise Mobility and Security for, watermarking the documents, and all those kind of advanced auditing and all those kind of more advanced security measures we can take. However, these requires the additional licenses, which is either you should have to has to have Microsoft 365 E5 licenses, or a separate enterprise mobility and security licenses, so that you can have those advanced security implemented for your tenant. So these are some of the best practices we can follow to secure the documents. Um, yeah, and that was it. If you have any questions, you can just shoot. Hello.
Thank you, Abhishek. There is one question there. Can you see
Yeah,
it? By Peter Weens, who's asking, how is permission done on the document library? Is it based on the permission of the entity?
it is based on the entity document library. So all the permissions which we are setting up, we are setting up on the document library. So it's not we something we're doing on CRM. It's everything, all the permissions we are setting it up on SharePoint Online. So we can have separate set of permissions for each entity's document library, basically.
Okay, any other
Does that
questions?
answer my question, Peter?
Hi, Peter. Does that answer your question? Let's give Peter some chance to respond.
Yes.
There you go. Yep, Peter says yes, that does.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter.
Right. Any other questions? I know Abhishek, you've been quite comprehensive in your session today, explaining how to set up that configuration between Dynamics and SharePoint. You went into SharePoint, showed all the configurations available in there, in the site settings, as well as in Dynamics as well. So thank you so much for that. I think one of the common questions, Abhishek, is
Yes.
around securities. How do you control the security or reflect the security for your SharePoint users, for the users inside CRM, right? So imagine a user has inside CRM, a CRM user has created a document or has attached document via CRM. How would you control access to that document in SharePoint?
This is all because whatever documents we are adding, uploading it on CRM, that is that is going to SharePoint Online, and any permissions which we are setting over there, any security we are setting it up on SharePoint Online, it automatically does control the when you access the record or when you access the data from CRM also. So yeah, I mean,
So basically, what we're saying here, Abhishek, is, for example, imagine how would you prevent a user from accessing a document that was created by a user inside CRM, I think.
it's the same thing as I said, Raj. Like whatever settings, whatever permissions we are giving it to the users on SharePoint Online, the same permissions will be applied when the user goes to CRM and try to access the documents, because the documents is sitting on SharePoint Online, right? So any whatever permissions we are giving to the users from SharePoint Online, the same permissions while they access try to access the document in CRM, the same permissions will come into effect.
That's correct, Abhishek. I
Yeah.
think where I was trying to get at is the fact that that action needs to be completed on both sides,
I
right?
agree.
So
I agree, and that's what. Yeah, that I agree with that, and it does.
yeah, so the integration sometimes of those security permissions, to reflect the security permissions, maybe from CRM to SharePoint or vice versa. Sometimes, if they're quite complex, you do need to set up some degree of integration, right, to apply the relevant permissions from, say, CRM into SharePoint, for example.
Nothing is just the same permissions which I showed, and these are all basic settings which I've shown here. So there's nothing additional things which you need to do. For example, like these 5 to 6 settings which we've seen over here is just you configure it and it is just get attached to both the places. If the user accesses it through 3RM or they're using it accessing it through SharePoint Online, these policies comes into effect immediately in both the
Great
places.
stuff. And
Yeah.
Peter has left a comment saying at the
At
end,
the
we
end,
have to
yeah.
grant the permission on the site and on the record.
We
Fantastic.
have at the end we have to grant permission on the site
Yeah,
and on
fantastic.
so here, Peter, whatever settings we have configured, I mean whatever permissions levels are there for the site, it basically takes the same permission for all the document libraries, right? Now here in some cases, like for let's say for example, take an example of invoice entity. If you want that only my accounts team on the management teams and see the invoice records, you can set you can stop inheriting the permission from the parent side. Then what will happen is it will have that particular invoice document library will have a separate set of permissions. Now you can add the accounts team and the management team, and they will only be able to access it. Otherwise, for all the other document libraries, the permissions will still be same as per the site permissions. So for those particular document libraries where we are stopping the permissions, inheriting the permissions, for those document libraries, it will be a separate set of permissions. And yeah, at the end we have to grant the permissions on the document libraries, basically where we are having unique permissions. So for document libraries, not for the records, we have to do that. It's just the entities document libraries.
Great stuff. So, are there any other questions? Okay. Since there are no other questions, I just want to thank you, Abhishek, again.
Sure.
It's
Thank
a
you.
very
Thank you
important
so much.
session. Um, and I'm sure even with Power Apps, right, not just with the dynamics,
Mhm.
this capability is also available, right?
These capabilities was just for the wherever the documents, if the documents are integrated with SharePoint Online, you can have these capabilities in place. The documents has to have on the sitting in the SharePoint Online document libraries.
Well, thank you. So
Thank
lots
you,
of round of
Raz.
applause for Abhishek. Great session.
Thank
And
you, Raj.
we
So
will.
since I just want to quickly just go through it. So these were the beginner sessions. So I've included these basic security settings, and if I get a chance in future, I would like to come with the advanced security measures which we can take So yeah.
Well, that's great, Abhishek. Yeah, that's been really, really helpful for a lot of the attendees here today. I want to thank you. It was a very well presented session. So I have to thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
And do you have any final comments or any announcements to make?
No, that's it. It was great to have provide. I mean, give it a session over here, and it was my first time basically. So I would love to have more coming in the future.
Well, I have to say you did very well for your very first session. I have to say, Abhishek, it was a
Thank
very
you,
good
guys.
session considering very smooth. And yes, we could definitely do another deep dive. That's definitely something we can definitely plan for the future.
Sure.
So, Abhishek, I would like you to kindly share your contact details, share your blog and your contact details in the chat, so that the community can keep in touch with you. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm dropping it just right away. Yeah.